It is time once again for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. Now, next week we're going to do the monthlies as well, so that's going to be actually quite exciting. I'm really excited to see where October ends the month for these things. But let's start with CleanSpark as usual, as is tradition, just because it's the way I have it on my list here. So this week was a little bit rough. We had that massive red volume coming through. We had a significant amount of selling volume coming through on CleanSpark last week here. We have significantly higher volume, but that candle is much smaller. We got an inside bar compared to this big engulfing bullish candle here. We did not engulf, even though we had significantly higher volume, not like significantly, but higher volume and a much smaller candle. So that is exciting to see. We did fail at the 21 and the 50-day EMAs here, the blue and the orange. We did come right back down to the 5, but that's promising that we bounced off the 5. So I think we're gonna squeeze between the 50, the 21, and the 5 and 200 for probably until the election. Once that's over, I think we're going to see some bigger up moves out of this. And the reason for that, so you can see average force here, that's a momentum indicator. It is getting smaller and smaller there. You can see that my stochastic ribbons here, these are also turning bullish. You can see that the fast one's already yellow. And if I turn off the fast one, let me pull this over here. If I turn off the fast one, you can see that the slow one is also turning green and it is out of oversold conditions. So if this thing comes all the way back up to the top, we could see this thing very quickly find its way all the way back up into the 20s here, very in short order, much like a candle similar to like what we saw in February here, where we had like a 68% move in 1 week. We could see something like that come through if the rest of this, cooperates. And you can see, when was the last time we were on? Okay, so last time we were in oversold conditions on the weekly, and we came out of it was back here in 2022, December 2022. So it started back here, it flipped green, and we went from $2 to $3.48, almost a 100% return. And then again, when it flipped, it went red a bit right here in March 2023, March to April, and then in April 2023, it came out of oversold conditions, went green, and we went from 241 all the way up to 518 before we saw a pullback, more than a 100% move before we started to see any kind of pullback, which stayed bullish pretty much the whole way and just continued on up, where we really didn't see a finish until 762, which was way more than a 100% move. But we're looking only for about 6 weeks, so that would be only like that 100% move. So we could potentially see that come out of here. That would put us back up at about $22 if we got that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is in the cards. I would be more expectant of something like between $15 and $18. Maybe if we hit the 20s again, like the mid 20s, 22, 23, but it wouldn't last very long, I don't think. I think that would get sold pretty hard because there's a lot of traumatized traders here between 18 and 15 that are bag holding right now. So if that went back up to, honestly, even $18, I think we're going to see some significant selling. If it hits $20, $21, I think we're going to see an absolute drop out of this thing because there's a lot of people underwater right now. There's a lot of people that have been disillusioned by the Bitcoin miner trade that got in, back here anytime in last summer, or even in the spring around February, that are just seriously bag holding right now. And when we get back to those highs, I think we're going to see a pretty significant dump for at least, a month or two. We might see spring might not be the best time for us in the Bitcoin mining space, but I am planning to swing my shares anywhere in this most traded zone for CleanSpark, like 18. We get back up to 18, I'm definitely going to sell a significant amount of my bag. If we get like maybe a third or something, and if we get up to $22, $23, I'll be dumping the rest and waiting until spring it comes through for it to dip one more time before we go on to the 2025 rip, assuming we don't end up in like some horrible recession. Okay, so that's it for CleanSpark. Let's take a look at Bitdigital, the Ethereum play, the HPC play, the only one that actually has a dedicated customer, long-term customer for the HPC so far, which is why they've been kind of like taken off. I think Corz will eventually have that, and with their core weave, once they get their facilities online and going, yeah, they're gonna seriously benefit from that as well. And also Ethereum, Bitdigital is the Ethereum play. They're a lot less of a Bitcoin play these days, though. So if you're looking for pure Bitcoin plays, Bitdigital is not likely your choice anymore because they have significantly moved away from Bitcoin. And I am looking to potentially doing a new when moon for Bit Digital to reflect how things have changed in that company. It's a significantly different landscape than the last time I did a when moon on this company, so I think I need to rethink its potential compared to what I was thinking about before on it. So I think that needs to be redone for sure. Okay, anyways, you can see here that the momentum is strong. We're above the 5, we're above the 21, we're above the 50, we're coming towards the 200 week moving average, which is all the way up here at $5 flat. Okay, that's awesome. Everything is in the right order except the 200 week moving average. We get above the 200 week moving average, this thing could go on a tear. Like if Ethereum decides to just like take off, this thing is going to be just rocket boosters all the way. If Ethereum decides to take off, I do like the higher high, higher low pattern that we're getting right now, especially right here. If we come in here, we got the low here, we got a high, then we got a low, and then we got a higher high. Now if we come in and make a higher low and then turn around, we're going up to the 200 week moving average. You can better believe that we are going to make a date with that 200 week moving average of $5 before too long. Okay, so keep that in mind for Bit Digital. You can see that the stochastic ribbons are all looking good. We're getting towards that overbought condition, but the thing to remember with the ribbons on the overbought condition is it can stay up there for a while and continue to drive much, much higher. So I'm not too scared of that. The same thing on the low end. When they're oversold, they can stay oversold for a while. So it's more of a mark of, you know, where the momentum is headed versus like where it is versus where it's going on the slow one. The slow one, it only starts to move when it comes out of those areas. If it's in between, it's kind of in flow. If it's pinned to overbought, then we're going to probably stay overbought until it comes back into the middle section. If it's an oversold, it's going to stay oversold until it comes back into the middle section. And that's where that's how I've been reading those. And actually, one of these days, if you want a whole video just about the ribbons, let me know. I'll make a whole video about it, show you how to set them up, and we'll do that. Okay, Bitfarms. How's Bitfarms doing? Not good. Bitfarms is not doing good. It got rejected on the 21 and the 50 again. It's back down to 190. Bitfarms is in trouble. It's not looking great. It's not looking super good here. You can see that the momentum indicator here, the average force, is getting stronger to the downside. You can see that the stochastic ribbons are also getting like real wispy down here at the bottom. Now that could be something of a turnaround if they both flip to the bullish side here at these levels, but right now it's not showing a lot of life. So Bitfarms is having a rough time right now. It really needs to get above that 21 week moving average at $2.16 before it's really going to look bullish again. You can see that we had a bearish engulfing candle come through this week. We had higher volume, not significantly higher, but slightly higher volume that sent us down. Nice big tail on top there. So there were buyers that came up and the sellers pushed them down hard. So Bitfarms is a bit in distress based on this chart. Okay, that's not a comment on the company or anything. I'm not, you know, I don't want to see this sort of thing coming through on the Bitfarms chart, but that is what's happening right now. We're getting pushed back down into this aggressive channel here, which is part of this less aggressive channel here. So if we lose this yellow trend line down here, if we lose that longer trend line that has been there since 2022, if we lose that, we're coming back down to the center of this down at 150, and that is going to be a real rough time for anyone holding Bitfarms. So I do want to see this thing succeed. I want to see it go up, especially for a nice Christmas rally. That'd be really sad if it got left behind on the Christmas rally while everything else is, you know, pumping up in Moonvember here coming up. So yeah, I don't like what it's doing. It's making a lower high and lower low right now. So I'll draw that out right here. So we had this swing here, right? And we made a low, then we made a lower high, then we made a lower low, and now it looks like we're making a lower high. And if we make a lower low, that's a really ugly line I drew. If we make a lower low, we would lose this trend line. And if we lose that trend line, we are open up down to 150. So be aware of that on Bitfarms. That may have to come to 150 before it turns around again. I'm not saying that's definite and that it's going to, but the lower high, lower low pattern is in place. If we make a lower low, we break the trend line. If we break the trend line, we are open to the potential of a 150 Bitfarms again for at least a short period of time. Okay, so Bitfarms is looking bad right now. It's not doing so hot. Let's take a look at Mara. How is Mara going here? Mara printed something of an inside bar, not fully inside, but, you know, almost entirely. It lost so it's struggling here between the 5, the 50, and the 21 EMA right now. Struggling between those, trying to decide if it wants to go up above the 21. Now, what am I looking at here? I actually bought some calls on Mara yesterday for January. So I bought some calls for January. Why did I buy those? I bought those because of this pattern right here. We have hiss, and then we have, let me turn this off actually so you can see it. We are creating something of a flat-topped triangle there, which I know there's a technical term for it that I'm not using properly, but basically when you have a flat top and price is slanting up, that is a bullish pattern. Okay, that's a bullish pattern. Now, that's not the only bullish pattern we have here. We have an inverted head and shoulders coming through, inverted head and shoulders. And as soon as we get above this flat top here, we are opened up all the way up to back to like $25, $26 on Mara. So I'm looking at Mara for that up move to come through here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, we see average force is getting weaker here to the downside, so it is strengthening. You can see that on the ribbons here, if I make those nice and big, we've got green on yellow, so green on yellow on the ribbons. Now, this slow one does need to get back above 20, and hopefully soon it'll do that, because once it gets back above 20, we can really see this thing fly, maybe even up to $30. Again, that'd be pretty cool. But average force is getting stronger to the upside. Stochastic ribbons are also showing a bullish move. Okay, we got a triangle forming, a bullish triangle forming inside of an inverted head and shoulders. I like all those things from Mara. Really, Mara just needs to come out with some good news, honestly, and we might see this thing take off and fly pretty nicely. So I'm watching Mara. I am now in a position for Mara. Okay, let's take a look at Riot. Riot, what's going on with Riot? I think Riot started taking off a little bit. So we got a bit of so Riot is kind of doing the opposite of Bitfarms. And I'm assuming that is to do with institutions purchasing Riot in lieu of purchasing Bitfarms, because Riot has a 20% or nearly 20% exposure to Bitfarms, meaning that you as an institution, if you buy Riot, you get a 2-for-1. If you buy Bitfarms, you only get Bitfarms. If you buy Riot, you get Riot and Bitfarms. I think that is why we're seeing Bitfarms fall right now. I think Riot's got their fingers in the pie and really screwed us over on Bitfarms. I really, truly am believing that, because when you look at the institutional buyers, there was this good significant amount of them coming through for Riot, and it looked as though a majority were starting to abandon Bitfarms, making Bitfarms like the retail arm of that Bitcoin mining duo in the eyes of institutions. Okay, so I think that's what's happening, and I don't like it. And as you can see here, Riot's taken off. It blasted off. In the same time that that Bitfarms is making lower lows and lower highs, Riot is now making a higher high. Riot broke out of this triangle here, right? You see, this is just like the one on Mara, right? That slanted up flat top, broke out of that triangle there. If we come back and back test 898 there and start going up and get above the 50 afterwards, which is at 995, we could very easily see Riot back up at $13, $14 in short order. We also have average force on this is getting stronger to the upside. You can see that the stochastic ribbons are looking super bullish down here. I just want to see that slowest one get up above 20, and I'll really be feeling like that one's ready to roll. But it is an absolutely polar opposite picture to what the Bitfarms chart is looking like. And I'm really, truly believing that institutions are getting on board with Riot for that double exposure, and they are leaving Bitfarms to be the retail arm of that duality there. Okay, let's take a look at Iren. Iren, ooh, I like Iren. What it is doing, it made a doji. It made a nice doji, but look at this. This is what I like right here with Iren. This is good. I think Iren's really gonna give us some beautiful things like what Wulf gave us recently. Okay, so stochastic ribbons. Look at this. Look at this bad boy. This fast one came flying up into the slow one. The slow one never even got to oversold conditions. Look how far down we came. If the slow never even got to oversold conditions before it flipped green, and it is getting wider as we are looking at it now. So on the weekly, it's getting wider. That is good. That slow one gets wide. This thing gets nice and wide. That's a big move up. Just like when it got wide on the way down, it was a big move down. So we're looking for that, like that big, bloated ship look inverted coming out of this green one right here, just like back here. I want to see this exact same setup right here, just like this, right? It started widening. The fast one came in, and then the fast one went like parabolic, while the slow one just started widening up. That's what I want to see here. We start seeing that green one here get wider, and the yellow one go to a steeper angle upward, you better believe Iren's coming all the way back to the top here. Coming all the way back to the top. 15, 16, maybe even $18 here around Christmas time is what I'm looking at for that. Now, we do have that inverted head and shoulders playing out. It is above the neckline on that inverted head and shoulders right now, but it did print a doji, so it is in a little bit of indecision. We might see a dip going into the election here still, especially since if you were paying attention, there was another escalation of war in the Middle East yesterday, which caused a big old dip in the evening on crypto. So we might see a dip next week going into this. I would, and of course, nothing I say is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. I'm buying this dip. I already started buying this dip. I bought more Doge. I'll talk about that in the crypto weekend video later. I'm buying this dip. That's all I got to say about that. Okay, so I like Iren. I like Iren a lot where it is right now. It's above the 21. It's above the 50. It's above the 5. The top ATR band there's all the way up at $13. I think we're going to surpass that like we did before. And I think since it's higher here, so we went up before at its peak. We were, well, I mean, the peak distance from it was 38%, right? So if we did the peak distance from it again, 38%, we'd be up at $18. That is a serious like 140% pump for me personally, because I've started buying at 110 and I bought all the way down to 6, and now I've just been holding for a while. So I'm very excited about Iren right now. Okay, Corz. How's Corz doing? Corz formed a doji here, so we came to the bottom of that triangle, at the top of the triangle. We're just getting tighter and tighter into this rising wedge here. I do feel like there is some sort of reckoning coming for Corz. I'm a little bit concerned about that. Okay, we've got the fast oscillator here, the fast ribbon stochastic is getting tighter up at the top here. This, even if this just dips back down to the 80, which would still be in oversold or overbought conditions, I think we'll hit 1087. Okay, if it comes lower, I think the 21. I think we have a date with the 21 on Corz at some point in the near future. Maybe next week we might see that due to the uncertainty that's coming through. We got the election, we had that escalation of war here yesterday. I think we might see that next week, maybe like a flash dip down like we saw back here in August, like a flash dip, and then followed by a rip. I think we might see something like that. But anyways, any dips I'm seeing as buying opportunities right now. I'm viewing every dip as a buying opportunity right now. Let's move on to Wulf. Wulf, this is what I'm looking for Iren. This is what I want to see for Iren, right? So it had that doji, right? So it had an inverted head and shoulders kind of forming, had a doji, came down, and then launched. Hit the 21 and then launched. And it is, look at that. With the stochastic ribbons, they are pointing straight up. The average force is getting stronger and stronger to the upside. Wulf is looking amazing. Now, what's going to happen here with Wulf? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we came back to test this red trend line here. We came back to test it. That would be next week. We could hit 560 or so, 560 next week. And then from there, if we don't have some other broader macroeconomic issue that causes it to go even lower, then I'd be looking at it to bounce there and come back up to the 200-week moving average at about $7.12 for the overall like Christmas rally. I wouldn't be, because look at this. Okay, watch this. This thing's getting steeper, right? We have this line here. Let me turn off this. The lines are getting steeper. We started off with kind of a flat one. So we started off with a mostly flat one right down there, right? Flat move. Then that flat move in November 2023 turned to a bit of a ascending move there, right? And then in June 2024, it went parabolic, came back to baseline, and started an even steeper move. Is the next move an even steeper, more parabolic move that could see this thing coming up to, $10, $12 or higher? I think possibly. If the good news keeps on rolling, if they keep hitting their marks, I would not be at all surprised to see Wulf trading, $4 or $5 higher than it is right now in like 90 days or so. Okay, wouldn't be surprised by that. Now, I wouldn't also be surprised if it gave 60% of that back in like March, but that's what I'm looking at right now. Potentially seeing like an 80-100% move around, by or in January, and then from there a dip into spring, and then hopefully summer we get another big old rally before the absolute blow off top comes through. Okay, so Wulf looking great. Wulf looks amazing. I would wait for a little pullback right now. It is hot. It is real hot right now. You can see it came up to the high. It made a higher high now. All it needs to do is make a lower low. And you can see we had that higher high, higher low pattern starting right here on August 5th. We came up, we made a high. That was higher than the previous break 2 weeks before that, and then we had a low here, which was higher than the low before. Then we made a higher high, then we made a higher low, and now we're making a higher high, and then we make a higher low. That'll be about that 560, 580 range, and we make a higher high. We're going up into the sevens. So Wulf is looking just super duper strong. I like Wulf right where it is. Let's take a look at Hut. Hut also looking very strong. We got an inverted head and shoulders here, which was confirmed at $12.87. This little dip right here down to $13.82, that was the dip to buy. You can see average force is getting stronger to the upside. The ribbons are pointing up. If we get a little dip next week, I'd look at that as a buying opportunity on Hut as well. That could potentially take us up to $17, $18, even $20 on Hut. I think that ultimately we are going to look for a run up to $22 or higher here, maybe even matching this high from July 2023, which was up at almost $23. I would not be surprised to see something like that come through right now. Now, last year, the December high was lower than the summer high. So Hut does have a bit of a history of their December highs being lower than their summer highs. Like you can see here, summer 2022 was real high. December 2022 is actually a low. Okay, summer 2023, big old high. December 2023, higher low or lower high. Then July, we had this big blow off top, which was big old move, which was lower than the July 2023 move. Is this December going to undo that pattern, or are we going to see Hut hit the 200 week moving average at 1884 and then come back down? So that is something to be aware of. It does have a tendency to make a lower high in December on Hut. So don't hold Hut thinking it's absolutely going to go over $21 just because there's an inverted head and shoulders that could take you that high. It does have a history of underperforming in December, so keep your eyes open on that. Pay attention if you're in Hut. If it gets to $18 and starts showing any kind of weakness, I would start taking serious consideration into whether or not I want to take profit. Okay, so let's move on to Cifr. Cifr is the other one that is looking super hot. This one looks like it is unstoppable right now. We had that inverted head and shoulders come through. That this week it did a dip down to 462. That was the dip to buy because it is ripping higher. Now next week we got the average force going up. We've got the ribbons. The fast ribbon is crossing up over the slow ribbon. They're both not. So fast is now out of oversold conditions. The larger ribbon, the slow one, never went fully into oversold conditions, and it is turning up. I would not be surprised to see Cifr up around 636, maybe even as high as $7 in a couple of weeks here, unless there is some sort of headwinds that it runs into. I wouldn't be surprised. So I do think that we'll probably see a pullback due to the escalation in the Middle East over the weekend, which caused already a significant dip on crypto. If it recovers by Monday, though, I don't think we'll get a rip. So if crypto recovers by Monday, we're not getting a rip. I mean, we're not getting a dip. Sorry, we're just going to get a rip. Okay, so watch this. Cifr's ready to pop like Wulf was as well. Like I mean, it already has been, but I think it's ready to do even more. If you get any pullbacks on Cifr, I think that's the opportunity to look at for that one. And same thing with the warrants. The warrants, I wouldn't be surprised to see these things come up to 260 here in a very short order. We got a couple of dojis here at 150, and then boom, 260. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see those do a nearly 100% run in just a week or two. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Let's move on to Hive real quick. Hive hit. Oh, guess what happened? Okay, so Hive this week hit this descending trend line. Okay, guess what happened? It rejected. Technicals, my friends, technicals. So it broke out of this triangle, technical breakout right there, hit the trend line, broke. If you were in Hive and you did not heed that trend line, this big yellow one, you didn't heed it, that sucks. It needs to break this thing. It might break this thing, but look at the ribbons. The ribbons are starting to flatten out. The fast one's starting to flatten out already right here. The average force, if this average force gets bigger to the downside next week, Hive is coming down. Okay, this is not a strong chart. Not yet. It needs to break this yellow trend line before Hive is a strong chart. And then even then, it could go as high as 559, which is significantly higher than it is right now. But right there, that it hits the next even stronger trend line at that point. So if you get into it once it breaks the current trend line that it is facing, watch the next trend line very carefully for it to reject there as well. So Hive still not looking very strong. So Luna, the lotto play. How is the lotto play doing? I'm actually up about 32% on this bad boy right now. We did get a bit of a blow off top there, but we did. Ooh, I like this a lot. Look at that. We closed above the 21-week moving average. That is good. Even though this is kind of an ugly doji, closing above the 21-week moving average was good. You can see that average force is finally this week made a slightly lower move on to the downside. So it is starting to pick up to the upside. These stochastic ribbons are yellow on green, both out of the oversold area now. So the slow one never got into the oversold territory, but the fast one is now out of it and getting bigger. Now it did slow that momentum a little bit. I would like to see this fast one reignite, and I'd like to see this green one get wider here, but the lotto play is looking not too bad. It's not looking too bad at all. Now this one, just much like with Hive, it's got some trend lines it's got to break. So it broke this trend line. That's when I really got into this thing. Okay, when it broke that trend line. Now it's got this trend line up here, which in like 2 weeks will be at 618. Which is also coincidentally where the 50-day moving average or 50-week moving average is. The top ATR band's up at $7.02. I would not be surprised to see this thing, if it can break this trend line, to pop back up to $8, $9, maybe even $10 here by Christmas. That wouldn't surprise me one bit if we were to see that happen, especially since this formation is looking a bit like a cup and handle right here. And I'll draw that out real quick. So like it's looking a bit like a cup and handle here. And what we know about cups and handles, here, I'll draw it back on there a little bit better, like cups and handles, is that they usually go about as high as the bowl is tall. So if we come here, so about right there-ish, we could see about 560 before it needs to collect another bullish formation, which surprisingly is present on this chart. There is also an inverted head and shoulders here, and that inverted head and shoulders is, and I'll draw that one out for you right now too. Inverted head and shoulders, we came here, we shoulder, head, and then we make like a tiny little shoulder. We might even come all the way back to 355, which I think would be a dip to rip opportunity. And then we come back up to about $7. And if we get a blow off top, like happened before we went into this inverted head and shoulders, if we get a blow off top, that could take us back up to almost $9 on Luna. So again, this one's a lotto play. I don't have very much attributed to this play. It's very small in my portfolio. It is a lottery play. It is a zero or hero sort of play. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it. So anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description, as well as the channel bio, and have a profitable day.